Welcome to The Explainer, where we dive into some fascinating research and break it down into clear, compelling stories. So, let's talk about student plagiarism. What if the best way to stop it wasn't about catching cheaters, but about making it totally pointless in the first place? Today, we're diving into a study that does exactly that. It completely flips the script on academic integrity.
All right, so to get into this, we need to go to Vietnam. Our story kicks off with a group of university students in an international program, and believe me, they were facing an academic challenge that was, well, it was almost impossible.
Okay, put yourself in their shoes for a second. You're juggling 4 different subjects at once.
And for each of those subjects, you've got a 3,000-word report to write.
You do the math. That's a staggering 12,000 words.
But wait, it gets crazier. All of that is due in the same week. Oh, and did I mention this is all in English, which for these students is their second language? I mean, the pressure is just immense. And it's no surprise the study points out that feeling this overloaded is a classic recipe for plagiarism.
And this is where things get really interesting. The researchers behind this study had a different take. For them, plagiarism wasn't some big moral failure. Nope, they saw it as a symptom, a giant red flag that the learning process itself was broken. If students are just copying and pasting, they're not actually learning anything, right? So you might be asking, how do universities usually deal with this? Well, let's look at the old way of doing things, which frankly just wasn't working.
You know the drill. The typical response is all about detection and punishment. You've got software like Turnitin, scanning for copied text, you've got the threat of failing grades, or being forced to rework the whole thing. But here's the problem. The study found a huge fundamental flaw with this entire approach. What happens is it turns learning into a game of cops and robbers. It creates this adversarial relationship where the student's goal isn't to learn the material anymore. It's just, how do I not get caught? All their energy goes into beating the system, not actually understanding the subject. And this quote from the study really just nails it. The researchers basically said, hey, we as teachers are educators, not police officers. They argued that maybe the blame isn't entirely on the students. Maybe the responsibility is on the educators to design a better system, one that actually encourages learning in the first place. Okay, so this is where it gets really cool. The researchers didn't just point out the problem, they came up with a solution. They designed this radical experiment, a whole new way of testing that changed literally everything for these students. The idea was actually super simple, but totally profound. They got rid of those 2 massive high-stakes reports. And what did they replace them with? Weekly 5-minute group presentations. So think about that. Instead of one monster deadline hanging over your head, you have this small, manageable task every single week. And the best part? You're getting continuous feedback along the way. Now, to make this work, the instructors had to do something pretty brave. They had to cut 50%, half, of the lecture content. That's a huge gamble, right? But it was all based on this classic idea in education. It's better to teach less, but teach it really, really well. All right, so the million-dollar question, did it work? Did this crazy experiment actually pay off? Well, let me tell you, the results were nothing short of staggering. So first, let's set the scene. This is what things looked like before the big change. Over 3 semesters, you can see that most students, about 68%, were just barely passing. And look at that, 9% were failing or caught for plagiarism. The mean grade value was a pretty mediocre 1.21. Okay, now for the new system. The rate of significant plagiarism dropped to 0. Zip. Nada. Think about it. How do you even plagiarize a 5-minute group presentation every week? It's just not practical. The system didn't punish cheating, it just made it completely irrelevant, so students stopped. And this is the real kicker. It wasn't just about stopping plagiarism. The impact on actual learning was huge. In just the first semester of the new system, the average grade shot up from 1.21 to 1.61. That's a 33% improvement. This proves they weren't just cheating less, they were genuinely learning more. But wait, there's more. They thought, how can we make this even better? So in the second semester, they added a new element to the mix, optional weekly tutorials, but held in the students' native language, Vietnamese. This was all about making sure everyone was crystal clear on the expectations. And with that one little change, wow, the results just went through the roof. The average grade soared all the way to 2.06. Compared to where they started, that is a 70% total improvement. I mean, that's not just a good result. That is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. What does this all mean? Why should we care about one classroom experiment that happened in Vietnam? What's the big takeaway for all of us? The takeaway here is massive. It's that how we test our students might be just as important, if not more important, than what we teach them. Think about it. When you design smarter assessments, these frequent, low-stakes tasks, you just naturally reduce the pressure. You make cheating impractical. You give students constant feedback so they can actually improve. And what's the result? Real, measurable learning. And hey, as a bonus, the students themselves said they were happier and learned way more. It's a total win-win. So this whole study leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. We spend so much time and money on this arms race against cheating. Better software, stricter rules. But what if the real answer is much simpler? What if the key to unlocking better learning for everyone is just to rethink the test itself? It's a simple idea, but one that could genuinely change education everywhere.